Aucklanders are facing pressing issues such as housing, congestion and homelessness. Whoever is voted mayor in the October elections this year needs to provide effective solutions. Candidate John Palino is hoping for the opportunity to do so. The New Jersey-born restaurateur ran for mayor back in 2013, a campaign that ended with controversy. However, Mr. Palino is back and ready to prove why he is the best person for the job. Thank you and welcome, Mr. Palino.
Thank you very much.
So there was a lot of media backlash when you announced your intentions to run for Auckland Mayor. Did you expect that?
Yeah, I did. I knew that I was going to, have backlash like that. But look, I love Auckland and I really care about Auckland. And even though knowing I was going to get hit with that, I still ran.
And how well did you think you responded to that media attention?
Well, if you were there at the event, you would have seen it in a much different light. That's not really what happened. What happened was I was talking about people not being able to put food on their table. And it really upset me while I was trying to talk about people struggling in South Auckland. People struggling, they don't have homes, they can't put food on their table, and then I'm being attacked with, something that happened 3 years ago. That has no meaning to me whatsoever, no meaning to the people. What's important was the fact that we need to change Auckland. And that was what was getting me upset. I'm trying to tell you people that, look, we have to take care of these people. We have to start changing the way we're growing Auckland.
And so do you feel like you wanted, if you could go back, you would respond in a different way to the media?
Look, to respond in a different way would be to say, look, don't give them the opportunity to cut it up and change it around, because you have to give them, you have to try not to give them something that they can turn around on you. But that's not what it was about. It was about me talking about the people. I was getting very upset and very passionate about people. My cafe, which is down in Takanini, is right on that park, Pullman Park, where the homeless are. So I've been seeing that for a long time. We've gone out there and we've done things to try and help. Yet they're more concerned about what happened to the mayor, 3 years ago than what's really important today, and something that I had nothing to do with.
And so speaking of the media, there's been a lot of discussion recently about the housing affordability. And it's also something you highlight in your book, A Vision for Auckland.
That's right.
So one of your solutions is to intensify housing around existing transport routes. Can you give me a concrete example about how you would go about this?
Well, we're at the moment, we're filling in suburbs. We're building houses behind houses. And the reason why it's getting worse and worse is that when you put 1,000 people into a suburb, 900 of those people are not using the public transportation to get to the city, because only around 10% actually work in the city.
But how would you intensify housing? So like, for example, take Panmure, which is a very, a lot of people use the Panmure train station and the buses. If you were intensifying housing around there, how would you do that? What would go up?
Okay, well, first of all, it's not just about Panmure. It's about creating work at the same time you're creating housing. So this is what I was trying to say in the suburbs. When you have that many people move into a suburb, there's no value in them creating businesses. Do you know that 95% of all businesses in New Zealand are created by the people? They're small businesses. So we have to give the people the opportunity to open up businesses. So if we move more people around, say, Manukau, Albany, maybe Henderson, those city hubs, where we can develop both housing, apartments and housing, and as well as commercial areas, so that those people who are living in those areas, as the population is growing in those areas, they can develop jobs in those areas.
But how long do you envision this process to take? Because we need solutions right now.
Right. We need to open, in my book, I talk about opening up the metropolitan urban limit. Now all of a sudden, that's something that I've been campaigning on for years, about building these CBD areas separate from the existing CBD, and about opening up the metropolitan urban limit so that we can build. Now if we are able to open up that boundary, and we take an area that we can put over a 10-year period, 300,000 people, so we have a plan. And we give sections to developers so that they can build those areas, and a commercial area. We are now putting people where they live and where they work, because the people are going to create jobs. You're going to have doctors open up doctors' offices, lawyers, restaurants, theaters, hair salons, nail salons.
And you talked about homelessness before.
Yeah.
So, and this is a very pressing issue with reports of people living in garages
That's
and
right.
cars. So what are some immediate plans that you would put in to solve this?
Well, this is why National is now jumping on board, and Labor had jumped on board last week. Those are my policies that they've actually just showed that is going to work. Now, by opening up the metropolitan urban limit, you know, the difference in land price is like 10 times. You have a property on this side of the metropolitan urban limit, it's worth 500,000 or 600,000, and on this side is 50,000. So right off the bat, if we build homes here, we can sell them for about 300 to 350,000. Now, what the unitary plan is doing right now is continuously trying to infill the suburbs around the CBD. That is pushing the prices up, and it's pushing the people who can't afford it further and further and further away from the CBD.
But what are you going to be doing about homelessness?
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. So when you're pushing people further and further and further away from the CBD, they're being pushed further and further away from jobs. They can't get the jobs. They can't work because now they're an hour and a half away from the city. So it takes them a good hour and a half to actually get to the city. Then it takes $20 in fees every day. They have to work 2 hours for free to even actually go to work. And now they're being paid for 5.5 hours, and it's taken them 11 hours. So the council has pushed them away. So what we have to do is we have to build businesses and jobs in the areas where people are living.
So that's what you want to do. You want to build.
That's why we need to build Manico up. We need to build Albany up, Henderson up, and a new city in South Auckland, because that's where the people, the poor people, had to move away to. That's where they had to go to. You know, when I put an ad in the paper for my restaurant, I have 100 people show up for the job. And honestly, you know, what they tell me is, look, I can't get to the city for a minimum wage job.
Okay. So talking about that with the whole National and Labor government, there's currently a blame game going around. Who do you think is at fault, council or central government, for the housing crisis?
It's council. It's 100% council. Their ideological way of building is totally wrong. You know that they get planners down from the states every month.
Andrew Little, the Labor government leader, would argue that National has been in power for 8 years, and during that time housing has gone up. So what would you say to that?
But Labor has just jumped on board with the same exact policy that I have and that National has. Open up the metropolitan urban limit so that we can build cheaper land. It's the same policy. All right. You know,
that's all the time we have.
Oh, that's it.
I know, I'm sorry, Mr. Palino, but thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule today.
Thank you.
It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you very much.